Visitors, a later start than usual, but we wanted to be able to react to Wales' first World Cup finals appearance since 1958. And just when it looked like the game might be heading USA's way, Gareth Bale stepped up to smash home his 41st goal for his country to give Page's men a point from their first game. So Group B is up and running, and we want your thoughts on where it went right and wrong for Rob Page's side tonight and where they go next ahead of Friday's game with Iran. Get involved right now. Give us your thoughts, and we'll review England's 6-2 win over Iran from earlier on today. And what have you made of the tournament so far? We'll squeeze in some Pembrokeshire football and rugby news as well before 10 tonight. And after losing against Georgia, and I think we're post-Watershed as well, we'll have to ask Gordon if he wants Wayne Pivac to stay on as Wales coach. But let's get straight to it. Tom, Gordon, Fraser, great to have your company. Who wants to go first? Last time Wales played in a World Cup, it was a player with a famous name that gave Brazil the win. That was Pele. Tonight, it looked like Weah was going to give USA the victory, but Fraser, Bale stepped up and saved the day.
Yeah, I mean, very much sounds a cliche performance of two halves, wasn't it? Contrasting really to 45 minutes. I thought the lineup we picked was wrong for what the tactics we then used. We seemed to sit very deep in that first half, and we picked a pacey front three, obviously, with Wilson and James either side of Bale there, without really trying to offer anything in attack. And I don't think we even offered the counter-attacking option, which I assumed we would when I saw that lineup. It goes without saying you totally change things at half-time. When you brought Kiefer Moore on for Daniel James, you obviously have to change system when you do that. And they came out a different team, didn't they? They came more direct. They didn't look like they knew how to handle Kiefer Moore, the American defenders. And it was a much, much better second half. But we were almost forced into doing it, I felt, by Weah's goal, which was maybe slightly disappointing. But I'll be completely honest, you're sitting there with 20 minutes to go and you absolutely take a draw of that first game and still being in the World Cup group, don't you? So I think it was a disappointing start. I thought we looked almost flat. I don't know if the heat was maybe a factor, but we came away with it from a result and we're still in it.
It's a good assessment from Fraser there, Gordon. We were worried, weren't we, last week going into the tournament about the Wales defence, actually. I thought throughout the game, Wales defended pretty well. Weah just slipped through in that first half. And you're screaming at Nico Williams to step up, really, aren't you? And if he does, he plays him offside. But defensively, Wales were solid. It was going forward in that first half in particular. They looked a little bit limited at times.
Yeah, it was being a bit critical of the defence last week, I suppose I was. But for me, Roden stepped up at the wrong time as well. He left the defence trailing. He went too far up the field to try and, get possession, I would think he was thinking of. But it left us short at the back, and poor old Nico got caught on the left-hand side there. Yes, you're right, Ben. I think he could have stepped up, but it was that moment in time he was trying to stay with the last defender, and it happened so quickly. George Weah took it brilliantly, to be fair. It was a lovely thread pass by, I think it was Pulisic, was it?
Yeah,
a lovely pass. It was well weighted, and although Henderson tried to come out and smother it, he finished well, a bit like his dad did in the World Cup a few years back. I can remember George Weah playing. Timothy took his goal well. I agree with Fraser. I think we set up wrong from the beginning, to be honest with you. We just never looked comfortable. I think Dan James was running around a bit like a headless chicken. And we had Gareth Bale, who was probably not getting involved enough. We definitely missed our very own Joe Allen. We needed somebody to sit just in front of the back four and start to pick the ball up and play the short passes that he does. He does that brilliantly. Let's hope that he'll be fit for the next game. But it was looking as though we were going to go home with a defeat until Kiefer Moore came on. It was looking ominous, wasn't it? Let's be honest. We were playing very well. He missed that one header. Ben Davies missed another header. And in the first half, Joe Roden nearly scored an own goal. So it was all happening. But at the end of the day, we got a point, and now we can move on to Iran on Friday. That's the next game for us, and hopefully play with a Kiefer Moore starting off. I would say that he'd definitely be starting.
Give us your thoughts. The comments are coming up on the screen. A few coming in already. Aaron Ramsey, awful. his legs have gone. Jason Chapman, Bale and Ramsey poor, neither match fit. The thing is, Fraser, I was thinking this, but when you want a moment in a game where there's a penalty or a set piece, you want Gareth Bale to be standing over it. And you thought in the 81st minute, that was the reason Gareth Bale was on the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's a synopsis of Gareth Bale with Wales in the last couple of years, wasn't it? He was largely ineffective for those 90 minutes, no doubt about that. Aaron Ramsey as well, I do agree with the comments as well, was ineffective tonight. He looked off the pace. And you do wonder whether the thing we talk about so much with those two, the lack of game time coming into a major tournament and extreme heat caught up with them tonight. You hopefully maybe they'll acclimatise it and be better off on Friday. But, Gareth Bale, for whenever he has been injury prone or out of form or lacking match practice, whenever he's come back into the Wales camp, he has stood up in big moments. When they were gifted the penalty, it was a definite penalty, and it is another moment to add to his legacy, whatever you say about his display. And I agree with a lot of what Gordon said there, actually, I think, and it is just a case now, as we do take a point when we're staring a defeat in the face, and we are still banging it going to Iran on Friday, who I thought looked very poor today. But I don't think we can afford to set up in the first 45 minutes against Iran like we did against the USA, who we saw England today, and England obviously have more attacking weapons than us and are a better side than us. So there's no doubt about that on paper. But the damage they did to Iran by going at them at pace and getting behind them, they look very defensively susceptible, and we have to try and exploit that.
Okay, I've got a few more points on the Wales lineup in just a sec. Tom, let me just bring you in as well. It was a difficult watch at times, that first half. Did you see Wales coming back into it in the second half?
I think I did. We underestimated how good USA were going to be, and I think we expected far more opportunities on the counter. But USA, they've got 9 Champions League players in that squad now. It's not the USA of old. They are better on the ball. They're more technical on the ball. And I think we just expected them to make more errors. And quite rightly, we had players on there for the counter-attack that was never going to come because USA were holding it too well. Putting Kiefer on made the big difference. And I've usually been quite critical of Kiefer. I don't like that classic long ball. But it worked wonders. It really did.
The problem I thought in the first half, and I like Dan James, Gordon, I do like him, and Stephen Price has just said, that you'll see on the comment, we got out of jail there. The thing with Dan James, he's not a number 9, is he? He can't lead the line. And I wonder whether he was in the team to begin with to give Wales that outlet, because if you're going to have Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey in the side as well, you do need some legs in front of them, don't you? Do you think that's why Dan James starts, Gordon?
Yeah. Fraser and Dan James play. Just got so much pace to burn. You create space down the flank for Dan James, he'll kill you. Yeah, you need to push him, to be honest with you. And I think out wide would have been better just staying as a winger, not so much trying to come in and lead the line. I think it complicated issues with Gareth Bale so far up as well, because I think Gareth is better out wide as well. We had Kiefer more in the middle with Gareth Bale and Dan James on the wing. I think we create a lot of problems and get Allen back fit.
Okay.
And then possibly Ramsey coming into play as well a bit more, because those get very well with each other.
Okay, Gordon, we're just having a little bit of trouble hearing there, but I think we got the gist. I think Gordon's mic was just crackling a little bit, but I definitely got the gist of what you were saying there. And Fraser, just on that point of Gordon saying that Dan James occupying the wing, is there a way Wales can get him in those areas if Rob Page sets the team up with a back 5?
Yeah, 100%. I don't mind sitting deep. I don't even mind Dan James playing that number 9 role. That happens a lot now because these front threes in modern day football are so interchangeable, aren't they? I think the problem tonight was we were setting up deep, but then not looking to break or attack with any pace. I think you need to do that in this World Cup. If you're going to sit within your own half, you've got to utilise someone like a Dan James. And the problem was when we had possession that first half, we weren't really offering any threat. And most of the game was played basically in our half. So I think that was one issue. And secondly, as well, it's certainly a place for Dan James in that front 3. But if you're not going forward, then you render him pretty much redundant, don't you? So it wasn't, I'm not against his selection. I'm not even against setting up in that way if you then attack on the break. And Wales didn't do either of those things in the first half. And it actually took Kiefer Moore coming on to completely change the tactics and the dynamic. And I think that was what they start with on Friday, if I'm honest, because if you looked at that Iran game today, they struggled in the air against England. Harry Maguire from set piece had a lot of joy early on in one of England's goals, came against that. So I think you probably do start with Moore after. Dan James to come on against Iran would be a tremendous option as well. Got to remember that. So, no, look, Wales do have legs in the team. There is a place for Dan James. He's not condemned out of the squad after tonight's first half. It was just simply a case of changing tactics, and he was probably the sacrificial lamb when you change those tactics, to be fair.
Yeah, okay, listen, loads more I want to cover as we look back on the game. So I think we will stick with it for a bit longer, because I do want to look ahead to Iran and also review what happened in the England game earlier on, and some of the other games that we've seen at the World Cup so far. And where on earth they're getting all this injury time from? That's a question I want to answer. Get answered as well. So we'll just take a moment and we'll come back in a few moments. So keep your comments coming. What did you make of that Wales performance? What did you make of the lineup and the shape Rob Page used? The big shouts as well. Wayne Hennessy started in goal. Was that the right choice? We'll come to that with Gordon, Tom and Fraser between now and 10, and we'll squeeze in some Pembrokeshire news as well. Thanks for being with us this Monday evening. It's Pure West Sport.
Eaton Evans and Morris Solicitors.